Picture this. It's the dead of winter, 1980. The Cold War is at its absolute peak. I mean, tensions are through the roof. And you're stationed at a U.S. Air Force base deep in the English countryside. A base that, according to pretty much everyone, is secretly housing nuclear weapons. Every shadow, every strange sound could be the start of World War III. But what's about to happen in the forest next door? Well, it's not a Soviet attack. It's something else entirely. And for one man, Airman First Class John Burroughs, this night, the night after Christmas, is going to change everything. A routine patrol is about to turn into an encounter that will not only redefine his life, but will spark one of the most famous and frankly most confusing UFO cases the world has ever seen. So let's set the scene. A Cold War encounter, the story of Britain's most famous UFO incident. We're at these two U.S. Air Force bases, Woodbridge and Bentwaters, smack in the middle of Suffolk, England. Like I said, the threat of nuclear war is just hanging in the air. It's a total powder keg. And right into the middle of it all, something decides to drop in from the sky. Okay, so this whole thing goes down over 2, maybe 3 absolutely wild nights. It starts with some lights in the forest on December 26th. Then, very quickly, it escalates to a full-on close encounter. And just when you think it's over, the lights come back. And a high-ranking officer, the deputy base commander no less, leaves his own team back into the woods to figure out what is going on. Let's walk through it. So it's about 3 in the morning, December 26th. Airman Burroughs is on patrol, and he and his partner see this cascade of lights, flashing red, blue, yellow, just silently falling into Rendlesham Forest right next to the base. Their first thought is exactly what yours would be. Plane crash. An aircraft is down. But there's a huge problem with that theory. It was completely silent. No engine noise, no explosion, no impact, nothing, just quiet. All right, so now we get to the craft in the clearing. This is where it goes from strange lights to a genuine close encounter. The odd-duty flight chief, a guy named Sergeant Jim Penniston, he puts together a small team. They're heading into those dark, dense woods, fully expecting to find a crashed plane. But what's waiting for them in that clearing is something else, something that just doesn't belong on this planet. The deeper they get into the forest, the weirder things become. The radios start crackling with static, basically useless. In the distance, they can hear farm animals just going absolutely crazy, screaming in terror. And the air itself, they said it felt charged. You know that feeling of static electricity right before a lightning strike? That. And then, bam, they step into a clearing and are hit with this blinding, impossible light. And there it is, right in the middle of this light. Penniston says he saw a triangular craft, maybe 9 feet tall, just hovering silently. He gets close enough to actually reach out and touch it, and he describes the surface as being like smooth black glass, but warm. And the strangest part, it was covered in these weird symbols, like hieroglyphics. When he ran his hand over them, they felt rough, like sandpaper. Okay, now this is where the story goes completely off the rails. Penniston and Burroughs, they do their investigation, they touch the craft, and they head back to the team. To them, it feels like maybe, 10 or 15 minutes have passed. But when they get back, an entire search party is looking for them. 45 minutes have gone by. 45 minutes that, for them, simply vanished. And you'd think that would be the end of it, right? But no, this story has another act. Which brings us to the question, was this a message from the future? Because 2 nights later, the lights are back. And this time, the deputy base commander himself, Lieutenant Colonel Charles Halt, who was, by the way, a total skeptic, decides he's going to lead a team in there and get to the bottom of it. And he brings a tape recorder. And we have the tape. We can hear what happens. Halt finds the landing site from the first night. His Geiger counter starts clicking like crazy. picking up radiation where the craft supposedly landed. He sees this pulsating red light darting through the trees, moving in impossible ways. And then, a beam of light shoots down from above like a laser and starts scanning the ground right near his team. It's all on the tape. So, fast forward 30 years. 3 decades go by. The incident becomes a legend. Then, in 2010, Jim Peniston, the sergeant who touched the craft, is going through some old stuff. He finds the notebook he was carrying that night, and tucked inside are 16 pages filled with nothing but ones and zeros. The thing is, he has absolutely no memory of writing them down. He thinks he must have done it in a trance-like state right after the encounter. Now, for anyone not familiar, those ones and zeros are what we call binary code. It's the basic language of computers. Specifically, this looked like ASCII, which is just a standard way to turn those numbers into letters and symbols. So the question becomes, what did this message say? What information was supposedly downloaded directly into his brain when he touched that craft? When they finally translated it, I mean, it's just mind-blowing. The message says, "Exploration of humanity continuous for planetary advance," and it claims to be from the year 8100. It also includes a list of coordinates that point to all these ancient, mysterious sites on Earth. We're talking the pyramids of Giza, the Nazca Lines, bases like that. Peniston's conclusion? This wasn't from aliens. It was a message from us, from time-traveling humans from the future. So, an incredible story, right? You've got credible military guys, you've got physical evidence, you've got a message from the future, but this is where the whole thing starts to get really, really complicated. Because as incredible as it all sounds, there might be another explanation. This is exactly the kind of puzzle we love to dig into here at the Synthetic Paradox. I mean, think about it. We have an unbelievable story coming from highly trained military men. It seems rock solid, right? It feels like one of the most compelling cases for a real UFO event ever recorded. But is it the whole story? Because once you start pulling on a few threads, the whole perfect narrative begins to unravel. All right, let's do it. Let's deconstruct the evidence. We're going to go back through everything we just heard, piece by piece, and look at the cracks that start to appear when you hold the story up to the light. Okay, first up, the flashing lights that started this whole thing. Remember Colonel Halt's tape? He specifically says he's seeing a light that flashes about every 5 seconds. Well, guess what's just a few miles away, perfectly visible from the forest? The Orford Ness Lighthouse. And guess how often its beam swept by? Every 5 seconds. In fact, if you look at the original witness statements, some of the airmen actually mention seeing the lighthouse that night. So what about all that physical proof? The radiation? Well, turns out those high readings were actually pretty normal. They were well within the standard range for natural background radiation in the area. And the weird marks on the trees? Local foresters took one look and said, yeah, those are just hatchet marks we used to mark trees we're going to cut down. And the indentations in the ground, the supposed landing marks? Locals identified them as rabbit scrapes, just animal burrows. And the terrifying sounds, those unearthly screams coming from the dark? There's a really simple explanation for that too. The forest is full of an animal called a muntjac deer. Now, if you're an American serviceman, you've probably never seen or heard one of these, and their call, it sounds shockingly like a person screaming in terror. So imagine you're already on edge in a dark forest chasing strange lights, and you hear that? Yeah, you'd be terrified. And this might be the biggest problem of all. The stories kept changing. A lot of the most dramatic details, like Peniston touching the craft, the symbols, the missing time, they didn't actually come out right away. They only appeared after Peniston underwent something called regression hypnosis in 1994, which is, look, it's a really controversial practice. because it's known to sometimes create false memories instead of recovering real ones. And that binary code story? Peniston said he rediscovered the notebook in 2010, but there's footage of him showing it on TV way back in 2003. And get this, the whole plot, a message in binary from a UFO, is almost a perfect match for an X-Files episode that aired in 1993. That's a huge red flag. If all that wasn't enough to make you scratch your head, there's one more theory. Years later, a story came out from some former British SAS guys, their special forces. They claimed the whole thing was a prank, a revenge prank actually. Apparently, they'd done a training exercise where they parachuted onto the American base, got caught, and felt the Americans treated them way too rough. So, to get back at them, they supposedly staged the whole UFO encounter. Which brings us to the Rendlesham paradox. Where does the truth actually lie? Because what we're left with is this massive conflict. On one side, you have sincere, compelling stories from trained military observers who are absolutely convinced they saw something not of this world. And on the other side, you have a mountain of evidence that provides a pretty mundane explanation for almost every single detail. So you end up with two completely separate realities. You have the believer's case. A genuine UFO encounter happened, witnessed by credible people, and all the weird evidence against it is just part of a cover-up. Then you have the skeptic's case. It was a perfect storm. The guys misidentified a lighthouse, got spooked by a deer, and then over decades, their memories got embellished and changed. This is the kind of situation that defines the synthetic paradox, how two totally opposite stories can grow from the same event. And that really is the heart of it, isn't it? When a story has so many holes poked in it, so many rational explanations, yet the people who were there are still, to this day, 100% convinced of what they saw. How do you even begin to separate what's real from the power of belief? It forces you to ask a really tough question. In the end, what's more powerful? The thing that actually happened, or the story we decide to tell ourselves about it? Thank you for exploring another anomaly with us here at the Synthetic Paradox. If you enjoyed this journey into the unknown, a like, subscribe, and a share is the best way to support our investigations. I'll see you on the next one.